Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Lim Moore here with your Saturday with Bill and Lim. But you know, Bill is always out in the world traveling. He should reinvent that new, the old game, Where's Waldo to Where's William. We need to see if we can get him to do that because he's always traveling. Hopefully, I'll get to see some of you guys next week at the Marketing Mayhem in San Diego. I'm heading out Wednesday. We'll be there probably for a week and a half. I don't know. It depends on when the family says come back home. So it'll be good to see you. And if you are going to be there, let me know because I would love to spend some time with you. I know Mike Wall, you and I, brother, better be spending some time together. Owen, I'm calling you guys out. You and I better be spending some time together. And if you're in that L.A., San Diego area and you're in this group, you best be getting a hold of me because you're going to be on my number. All right. With that being said, I hope you guys had a great week. It's been a fabulous week here in Dallas. As some of y'all probably noticing the beads around my neck, yes, I'm getting ready to go to a big, huge St. Patrick's Day celebration. Here in Dallas, they put this on every year, and you want to know who funds all the money? It's our very own Great Mavericks owner, Mark Cuban, from the Shark Tank. He flips the bill every year to get this this parade on, so it's pretty awesome. We're really grateful and thankful for him to do that. We weren't going to have it last year, but he was going to think about doing something else, but he decided to do it again because he loves Dallas so much. So let's move on. Today, we have a very, very special speaker here. Keynote. Well, let me just start all over. Let me put it this way. If you want to learn something today and you need knowledge about talking to an audience or talking to just a small group, I want you to listen up right now because this guy knows his stuff. And I want you to really, really, really pay attention, ask questions in the Facebook group. This week when you're watching the replay, we're going to have information on how to get a hold of this gentleman. So you might just keep him busy. Don't keep him too busy now. He does have a life because I know how you guys are. All right. With that being said, we're going to bring on Mr. Steve Lowell. Steve, are you there?
I am here, Lim. Thanks so much for inviting me. I'm so excited about this. You know, I've done all kinds of interviews all around the world, but this is the first Google Hangout one I've done, so it's kind of a new experience for me. I'm excited about it, I'll be honest with you. Yeah.
You know what? I'm hearing that a lot these days. It's like, they're like, a Google Hangout interview? I'm like, yeah, that's what we do, man, you know?
I think it's a great idea. I love it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So where are you calling from today?
I am calling from the Great White North, man. I'm in Canada, in the nation's capital, Ottawa, Ontario, where we still have like 6-foot snowbanks, and it's below zero outside, man. And it's like it's still the middle of winter here, brother. I don't know why I'm here. I'm 52 years in this city now, and every year I ask myself, why am I here? I ask myself that question in January, February, and March, and I think one of these days I got to find a way to spend the winters in warmer weather. But that's where I am. It's a spectacular city in the summertime. It's absolutely astoundingly beautiful here, so that's where I am, all the way up north, man.
Wow. Have you lived there all your life, or did you accidentally move there? Because me, I'm not moving anywhere that's cold.
Born. I was accidentally born here, so I've been here all my life.
No, I would never say that online, accidentally born, because my mom be calling me going, did you just say what? Awesome. 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 Wow. Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself, you know, your lifestyle. I mean, just a little bit, you know, let us get to know you.
Oh, sure. Okay. Well, let's see. What's relevant to your audience? Let's see. I've been on the live stage since the age of 6. So that's about almost 47 years ago, and I've been 6 years old. Yeah, so I've been entertaining and speaking and performing since the age of 6. So you know, in 47 years on the live stage, Lam, you know, I've learned a few things about what works and what doesn't work on the live stage. And so for the last 20 or 25 years, what I've been doing is working with speakers, professional speakers, aspiring speakers, coaches, trainers, authors, you know, professionals, healers, you know, because what I find, you know, is so many people they have a message, right? They've got an expertise, they have a message, they have a passion, they have something they want to bring to this world, and they do it in many ways. Some of them, do it within their work. Some of them do it. They write blogs. Some of them write books. They become authors. But the one thing that seems to be constant with most people who have a real serious passion or message that they want to bring to this world is that they want to bring it to a live stage. They want to learn how to speak, and sometimes, as you said, it's a smaller group. Sometimes it's a larger group. And so, over my life, what I've developed is some knowledge and some experience on how to actually bring a story or a message or an expertise to life on a live stage. And so for the past 20 or 25 years, I've been training professional speakers around the world to really help them bring that message to their audience in a way that is impactful and influential and inspiring and all of those things. So that's what I do.
Let me ask you this. At the age 6, what were you doing again?
At the age of 6, I was a guitar player. I learned how to play guitar starting at about 4 years old. And so what happened was my whole family,
right.
my cousins, we were all musicians. And so I was at a family party one time, and I was an itty bitty little guy. I mean, I wasn't any bigger than that when I was 6 years old. And I'm sitting around the table with my family, and I got my arms around this huge guitar, and I'm blowing it away. I'm picking away. And somebody at that party had their own television show, and they saw me there, and they said, listen, we want that kid on our TV show. So at 6 years old, they packed me up and brought me to the TV studio, and I did this little TV show, and then I started getting gigs, at local schools and fairs and, those kinds of things. And then it just never stopped. I just stayed. And so by the time I got into, pre-teens and teenage, I had my own band, and we did, and then by the time I was in my early 20s, I went on the road with the band, and went across the country. And then it was shortly after that I got into the speaking thing, because what happened is I was singing, right? And right. People say to me, because I was a guitar player, that was my real thing. But you're in a band, I had to sing, I had to perform. So I'd start to sing, and people would come to me and they'd say, Steve, maybe you shouldn't sing the words. Maybe you should just say the words, right? So I started to become a speaker, and so that's what happened. And I remember when I was early 20s, I saw my first Zig Ziglar video. And you remember Zig Ziglar? Because he's right? He's from Texas, and lived down there for years, not far from you. And so I saw him on video, and I thought, that's what I want to do, right? I want to do that. So, I don't speak like Zig Ziglar, but I wanted to be a professional speaker. And so I sort of took up that direction, and that's kind of brought me to where I
am. Wow. Yeah. They said, how about you just speak the words? I tell you what, life just throws you lemons every once in a while, let me tell you.
Well, it's interesting, actually. That's a good point, because, at the time it seemed like it was a limitation, but it turned out that what it was opening the
yes.
whole, right? Because the truth is, I was a good little guitar player, and I was the front man in the band all the time, and I was good at that, right? Like I could speak to anybody, I could engage the audience, I could do all that kind of stuff. I wasn't really a very good singer, So when they said to me, maybe you shouldn't sing the words, maybe you should just say the words. Well, it kind of took the barriers off, actually, and it opened. Now I can say anything. I don't need music behind it, right? So it kind of opened up a whole new world for me there.
Right. Okay, let me ask you this then. Since you're when you get on the big stage and you're about to talk to an audience, how do you prepare yourself to get them engaged in what your message is going to be? Because I'm sure your message changes a little bit every once in a while, or I don't know, maybe it's the same. I guess it depends on your audience, right?
Yeah, it depends on a lot of things. I mean, I have a fairly narrow focus on what I speak about, and most speakers, professional speakers should, because as a speaker, here's where a lot of confusion happens. Is some people think that because they can speak on a stage, they can speak about anything.
Right.
And that, in today's world, that just doesn't really apply, because organizations, associations, and different kinds of organizations that hire speakers, they don't really necessarily hire speakers anymore as much as they hire experts who speak. And so what I encourage speakers to do is to really narrow down what their expertise is. Don't narrow necessarily the audience for that expertise, but claim a space. You're an expert in something. Claim that space. Grab that expertise and become the known expert in that field. And so now you've got a field in which you are positioning yourself as the expert. Within that field, you've got a lot of different topics. So for me, my expertise is in speaking. So within the speaking field, there are many different topics on which I can present. So I can present on body language, stage mechanics, voice projection, networking, elevator pitches, and it extends beyond that. I help people with their the positioning of their business, some of the marketing, copywriting, sometimes even, because we have to do a lot of writing of speeches. So there's a wider range. So when I prepare, first of all, I need to know what is the objective of the presentation. And this gets into a really big topic, actually, then, because the objective of the presentation isn't always all that clear. Some speakers will say the only important thing is that the audience gets what they want, gets what they're looking for. And typically that's true, but it's not always true. Because let's say if the CEO of a corporation hires me to go in and speak for an audience, my customer isn't necessarily the audience. My customer is the CEO. So the guy who pays me, the person who writes me the check. So if the person who pays me says, here's what we need to accomplish, then that's what we need to accomplish. And so I need to prepare according to what the desired outcome is. Now, most of the events that I speak at are public events. I don't do a lot of corporates anymore, and I don't do a lot of associations anymore. I do some, but I don't do as many as I used to. Now, most of the events that I speak at are public events or my own events, and I don't get paid to speak as much as I used to now, because now I sell from the stage. So I generate my own revenue that way, which is an entirely different skill set, right? So for me to prepare, I need to know, first of all, what's the outcome? What's the desired outcome of this presentation? And so I need to know that. And then number two, I want to know who is in that audience. And sometimes that means I may call the organizer of the event and say, give me some people in the audience, some names that I can talk to in advance, so I can find out, who in the audience can I have fun with? Who are the jokesters? Who are the smartasses? Who are the people I should avoid? What's the common, what are the common, so give me some buzzwords. What are some of the common objectives? What are some of the common challenges? So I want to be able to speak to some of those things when I'm on the stage if I'm speaking for an organization. So then I prepare with all of those things. And then, of course, I need to mentally prepare myself. So I prepare my presentation. I never memorize a presentation, never. There are certain key words in it or phrases that I'll memorize, but I won't ever memorize a presentation, and for a lot of different reasons. And then I will, I'll run through the presentation in my mind over and over again, just so that I can get the order of events and all those things. Now, when I arrive at my location, wherever I'm speaking, I always try and arrive quite early, usually the day before, if it's possible. But what I like to do is, before I present, I want to see the room. I want to see the setup of the room. I want to walk up to the front of the room where the stage is and get an idea of what the room looks like from the stage. If I can, I'll get on the stage. I'll walk around. I'll look for weak spots. I'll look for creaky spots. I'll look for shadows. I want to see where the speakers are in the room, so that if I have a headset microphone, I'm not going to walk under a speaker and get feedback. There's all of these different things. So how do you prepare for a presentation is actually a pretty big topic, and there's a lot of things that we can talk about there. And then there's preparing myself physically to speak. So what I'll do is I'll go for a walk, 15 minutes before I present. And here's why. Because there's a molecule in your brain. It's called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. And BDNF is like fertilizer for the neurons in your brain, and it's released by physical movement. And it depletes itself, right? So what I'll do is I'll go for a walk 15 or 20 minutes before I speak, and I'll get that BDNF going in my brain, and it just makes me just a little bit sharper when I hit the stage, So those are just a few of the things that I do to prepare, because when I hit that stage, what I realize is that my audience is going to start passing judgment on me in about, in less than 2 seconds. I mean, the second they lay their eyeballs on me, they're starting to pass judgment. And so what I want them to see is, I want them to see somebody energetic, somebody who is enthusiastic, somebody who is authentic. I don't want them to see like the overblown sort of Tony Robbins on steroids kind of thing. I don't want to see that. And so I want to be able, those first couple of seconds in the presentation, they got to be bang on, man. I mean, I want to be in my groove. I want to be in my zone, in my mojo, and I want that smooth, and that sort of keeps me there. So those are one of many, many, many things that I do to prepare for presentation.
That's awesome, man, and thank you for sharing that. Wow. I want to just go back to not preparing for your presentation because a lot of us in this group have to go and we speak with business owners or a panel. Maybe I mean, if you go to a law firm and you're trying to do business with them, there's going to be like 3 or 4 people that's listening to you present. Give us some tips on what you just said. That you said you do not prepare for a presentation. You just use keywords because you're going to figure out generally what you're going to talk about. But how do you do that?
Okay, that's an excellent question. Now, here's the thing. I want to be clear about this. It's not that I don't prepare. I absolutely prepare. What I don't do is I don't memorize.
Right.
And here's why. Here's why that is. This gets into a big topic, but here's the thing. Under most conditions, and I would say if we're keynote speaking, if we're speaking about our message, our passion, our book, our expertise, whatever, under most conditions, as a speaker, your job is not to transfer information. Now, information happens, of course, but that's not your function. Your function as a speaker is to transfer emotion. You see, you want your audience to not only to understand your message, but you want them to feel about your message the way you feel about your message. So your job as a speaker is to get past their intellect into their imagination and reach them viscerally so that they can feel that there's going to, and that's where they make decisions. They make decisions about how they feel about things more than how they think about things. So all of that to say this, if I memorize my presentation and I recite it, it's coming from here. But this isn't where I need to reach my audience. I need to get so far past here in my audience. I need to get past their intellect and into their imagination, which means my message has to come from here. It's got to come from my soul because that's where I'm trying to reach. There is no way that I'm going to effectively be able to get from my head to their heart. I can't do that easily, and most speakers can't. I can get from my heart to their heart. So it's got to come from here. So here's what that means. What that means is preparing your information, preparing your presentation or your content is so much more than memorizing it. You need to go through your content until your content comes through you. And it's got to come from in here. Now, that doesn't mean I might say the same thing every time. But that's not because it's memorized. It just happens to come out that way. It's like when you say your name, you say the same thing every time, but you haven't memorized your name. It's so far beyond memorized, it's become part of who you are more than part of what you say. And that's where your content needs to be. If you want to be an effective speaker, whether it's an audience of 1 or an audience of 15,000, you need to know your material so well that it's part of who you are, not part of what you do or what you say. It's got to be so far beyond that. And this is why it kind of irks me a little bit when people say, you know what, I can wing it. I know my stuff, so I'll just wing it, man. I mean, I can talk about anything. I'll tell you something. The highest paid, most influential speakers on the planet do not wing it. You want to see what happens when you wing it? Yeah. So do you know who Michael Bay is?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a video on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and if you do a search on Michael Bay and Samsung, so the TV people, Samsung, you're going to watch what happens. And it's been all over the world, so I can put this out there. It's on YouTube. It's public information. But if you go there and watch a video with Michael Bay on YouTube, with Samsung, you're going to see what happens when you wing it. Now, Michael Bay has been on stages all over the world, spoken to hundreds of thousands of people. The man is a superb speaker. But he winged it this time, and you should go and see that because it's a painful video to watch. And I encourage everybody who's watching this, go and do that, and that's what happens when you wing your presentation. Winging it means, I'm going to go up there and say whatever comes up, at the time. Well, here's the thing. I do that, but I'm not winging it. I know my content so well that I can pick up whatever needs to be brought forth at that second. Right? Because I know my stuff that well. Because I've gone through my content so that my content now comes through me. So when I say I don't memorize, when I memorize and recite something, it's so restrictive. Because if I lose it, if I lose my mind or if I forget something, I'm lost. I can't get it back. That's what happened to Michael Bay on the video that you're going to go and watch. But if I know my stuff so well, I can never, ever, ever get lost. Because it's part of who I am. And it makes it so much easier to present. So I prepare beyond memorizing and reciting into internalizing and sharing. And that's where we need to be if we want to influence an audience as a speaker.
Man, that's awesome. I was just having a session with one of my students that I coach, and I was telling him we created his website, and I was like, now I need you to go through each feature on your website, and I need you to basically prepare just in case someone asks you about it. I mean, just don't throw it up and say, this is what I offer, because you're going to be to a point where they're going to say, huh? And you have to go in depth, a little bit more, explain it, and let them know why they need it, make them feel good about themselves so they can go ahead and buy that service. I'm glad to hear you say that. And now I've been to plenty events, and I've heard speakers, and they're up there, and I'm falling asleep. And I want to call that the robot mode, because it's like they're up there, they're in a robot mode, they're talking in a certain tone. It's like they've had this memorized forever. It's the same speech they give, and I'm like, oh, what is this, you know? And it's good to hear you say that. That's why I mentioned about preparing for a presentation, you know?
Yeah. You know, I've always said that just because somebody can speak in public doesn't mean they should, right? Here's a good analogy of what you're talking about here. You know, you got the speaker on stage, and it sounded like to you what you said, that they've said the same thing a million times and is robotic, right? You know, when I was playing music, when I was in the band, you know, I used to play 6 nights a week, you know, every week of the month, all across the country. I mean, do you have any idea how many times I've played the song "Brown Eyed Girl"? I mean, I cannot tell you how many times I've played that song. You know how many times, you know, that bands play the songs? How many times do the Eagles get on stage and play Hotel California, okay? Yeah. But here's the job. Here's the job. Every single time they perform it, the audience has to feel like it's the first time.
Yes.
Every single time. And everybody in the audience has to have that feeling. You know why, Lem? Because playing music is not a transfer of the song. They can do that on a CD or MP3 or on YouTube. Playing music on a stage is transferring emotion, and speaking is exactly the same. You may have said your presentation 6 million times, but you know what? If I'm in the audience, I don't care. I need to feel it from you like it's the first time you've ever spoken, and that's the skill as a professional speaker. And that's why you drift off into oblivion when there's some speaker on there that's saying the same thing a million times, and you're kind of, your head's rolling, you know, eyes are rolling back, because they're not doing that, because they're speaking from their head. And
you know,
can be done that way.
Wow, that's good, because guys, if you're not checking this out right now, or if you're not understanding, this has a lot, and I'm so grateful that you're on here, man, because you know that brings back a point where I've gone to someone and they've said, "Oh, I've heard about SEO before," and I'm like, "Wait, but you haven't heard it my way," because I'm sure all the salesmen come in, they throw the same pitch, and I'm like, "No, you haven't heard it the way. You need to hear it from me." And that is what you need. I mean, that's when I go someplace like this event that we're going to go to next week. I want to hear a speaker grab my heart and say, hey, this is what you need, or this is what you should be doing, or that I want it to be music to my ears. And what you're hitting, man, you're hitting triggers right now, buddy. I mean, you know, you are like, I'm like, wow. So I want to go back to selling from the stage. There's got to be a formula to that, and I take that because I know when I'm like, you know, out meeting people, it's almost similar to what you're doing, trying to sell, because you're not getting paid to go talk to the guys. You got to sell them from where you are, you know, let them know. How difficult is that to a big audience? Because I know there's some guys that are very good at it, but there's some who just miss it, you know?
Yeah, sure. Well, you know, there are formulas that you can apply, and there's no one magic formula that works for everybody. But there is a system that you can use, and what happens is within that system you find out what works for you and what doesn't, right? So you've got all kinds of people out there teaching speakers how to sell from the stage, and they all have different ways of doing it. Here's the bottom line for it is this, and it's just like any other sales presentation, Len, right? If your audience feels that they need your stuff, and if the price is fair, and if the credibility is there, then they're going to buy your stuff. It's not that complicated. So as a speaker, though, here's the challenge. As a speaker, we can't sit down one-on-one and answer questions and answer objections and tailor the presentation, and we don't have that opportunity when we're on the stage in front of 1,000 people and we're trying to sell. So we do have to have a specific formula. So we just don't have time to go through the whole formula here, but there is a step-by-step process that I use that I bring speakers through, that we create the entire presentation around the concept of value. And so to me, what happens is the audience receives enormous amounts of value in the presentation. I mean real life stuff that they can take with them and start using right now to change their life or change their business or whatever it is they want to do. So real value. And then at the same time as providing value, the other side of it is to generate an additional feeling of need. So we have to balance. We're providing a solution, but we're also creating another problem, right? So here's how much you can do by yourself. You really need to do a lot more than that, and that's why you need to buy my stuff. But if you leave here today and you do just this one thing that we've covered, you've gotten tremendous value, and it will be good for you. So the trick is, balancing value with creating need. And we do that. There's a very specific formula for doing that. There's different types of products that you can create, and I call them, one of them is called a baseline product. So for me, a baseline product is somewhere in your presentation you're going to establish a price point in the audience's mind where they start thinking in those terms. So for me, a baseline product might be my VIP mentorship program, so it's like $7,500, right? So I'll put $7,500 out there as a baseline product, a baseline item. So the audience now has $75 in their head. So now they have an idea of what ballpark we're working in. So one of three things is happening in the audience's brain when they see that $7,500. One of three things. Number one, they're either thinking, oh man, that's so far out of my range, I could never afford that. I wish I could. Or they're thinking, well, I wonder if there's, that sounds reasonable. I wonder if there's a way that I could do that. Or they're thinking, wow, that's nothing. I could do that today. So they're going to be somewhere in there. Okay, nice. So here's the point, is I have the audience now thinking we're playing in a $7,500 ballpark. And then I'm going to use what's called my feature product. My feature product is, this is what, I've told you about this other product, the VIP $7,500 thing, but here's what I really want to share with you today. Here's what I really have for you. This is the feature product that I'm actually offering today. And so it's going to be maybe substantially less than $7,500, maybe in the same ballpark as $7,500. So let's say, for example, my feature product is my 2-day boot camp at, let's say, $3,000. So now they're thinking, wow, we were at 75. I couldn't make, that's a stretch, but 3,000 sounds easier to me, right? And then I could go different directions from there. I might bring them down and give them a deal or include the two of them together, or I might have another product that I'll call a bonus product, which means, if you buy the feature product today, I'll include this bonus product. And then at the very end, I might have what I call a closer product, which is a last-minute throw-in, right? So here's what happens is the audience starts thinking at a certain level, the baseline, let's say 7,500. Then they look at the offering, 3,000-ish. So now there's a big gap. So now if they were even considering 7,500, 3,000 is a no-brainer. And now if they're on the fence, the bonus product or the closer product may push them over the edge. But here's the bottom line. At the end of it, what they need to be doing, you want the audience to be thinking, it would be insane for me not to buy this. That's where we have to get the audience. And so there's a whole process designed to get them there. And here's what really bothers me about a lot of speakers. Two things I see more often than not, and it really bothers me. Here's number one. Number one is speakers who are not trained how to sell from the stage will get on the stage and they'll do a whole bunch of stuff, and they'll bore you to death like you were with that other speaker, and then and then at the end all of a sudden there's an offer right out of the blue. And I didn't expect it, didn't know it was coming, and boom, there it is, right? And then what they'll do is, they'll say they'll start here at $1,000, and by the time you're done, it's worth it's $29.9, $200, it's $25, like they'll just keep giving and giving and giving and giving, and it's almost like they're putting themselves in a subservient position where they're saying, please, please buy my stuff, right? And so how much credibility does that lend? So that's the first thing I see that bothers me. But here's the other thing I see that really bothers me, and I see this more often and more often as we go, throughout the business world, where speakers use their offering solely as a mechanism to separate the audience from their money. And to me, that is it's more of a feeling that I get. The speaker hasn't established any real value. The speaker hasn't established any real credibility, and the speaker is really feeling like I'm really feeling pressured here because this speaker is trying to separate me from my money. And so
Right.
I those two things, either please, 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 please buy my stuff, or the slickster on the stage doing all the fancy cool stuff in order to separate me from my money. And to me, the sales process, sales is not about separating your customer from their money. Sales is about providing real value for real value. It's an exchange of value, and it has to be a
Yes.
legitimate exchange of value. And so the same thing applies on the stage. So there's a process to that, and it does take some tactical approach, and it does take some strategy, and it does take some planning and really good execution, because it is a sales process. But at the end of the day, the audience is in a position where they're thinking to themselves, it would be ridiculous for me not to buy this. And when they do buy it, they get actual, real, sustainable, applicable value. That's the bottom line.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. I have familiarized myself with all those categories you put those in when I've been at an event, and I've experienced all of those different types of speakers up there. So that's awesome to hear. You're like, where'd that come from? What, he's selling something?
Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! All right, let me ask you this: as you are growing to be a speaker or trying to be in front of the world, I would say, let's talk about mindset. How do you go about creating that mindset?
Yeah, okay. This is such an important question, because, like I said earlier, just because somebody can get on a stage and speak doesn't mean
Yes.
they should, right? And the speaker that puts you to sleep, or the one that kind of makes you squirm in your chair a little bit, because they're uncomfortable up there. There's so much to talk about there, but mindset is such an important thing, because if we're going to be an effective speaker, it's the same as anything else. You want to be a football player, basketball player, hockey player, if you want to be a business coach, whatever it is you want to be, it's got to start up here. It's got to be in the mindset. And they're all, and so many people, we've heard about, the law of attraction and the secret and the universal laws and all those things, and it's all good and it's all tremendous. But in my judgment, none of that is going to impact anything in your life if the wheels aren't turning properly up here,
Right.
And I remember being held back, most of my life, and I didn't know I was being held back. I'll tell you a story. I met a lady that I've been working with several years ago. Her name is Jane Blumenthal. Jane Blumenthal from up here in Canada. And Jane works with organizations. She works with people, for business people, and she helps them establish helps them identify patterns in their lives that are not serving them, and then she helps them identify what is the belief, what's the source of those unserving patterns, and then she changes the belief. So here's what happened to me. I'm going back, I don't know, 5 or 6 years or something, and 5 or 6 years ago, my business was doing just fine. I'm doing okay, and I'm happy with it, and everything is good. And I'm at a conference in Los Angeles, and I'm walking down the hall, and this lady comes the other way, and we just kind of pass in the hall, and she makes this eye contact with me, and it's just kind of like a weird kind of look, and she says to me, she says, "I can help you." And I said, "Okay, thanks. What makes you think I need help?" And she says this. She says, "There's something in your childhood that's been holding you back."
What?
That's what I
Oh,
said.
wow.
I've had a perfect childhood, man. I mean, my
Right?
parents are still alive. They're still together. I had a fantasy childhood. There's nothing in my childhood holding me back. So that conversation was over. And then
Right?
there were 6 or 7 months later, I'm speaking at another event in Florida. And I'm having dinner with a bunch of people that I don't know. It's part of their VIP package, dinner with the speaker kind of thing. And a lady
Right?
at the other end of the table looks over to me, and I kid you not, she says, "I think I can help you." And I said, "Okay." I'm getting a little freaked out now, right? I said,
Right?
"Why does everybody think I need help?" And
Right.
she says, "There's something in that childhood of yours that's really holding you back." I said, "Are you serious? There's nothing in my childhood." And she said, I can't really quite see it. I'm not sure what it is." So that was that. And then maybe a year and a half ago, I was at another event in Dallas, actually, and and there was all these tables, and a lady behind me, at the table behind me, stood up to answer a question, and in so doing, she mentioned that she was a psychic. And so I thought, I'm going to go and talk to her on the break. So
Right.
we took a break, and I go back to the table, and I'm approaching her, and I say to her, "Can I talk to you for a second?" And she says to me, "You want to ask me about your childhood, don't you?" Okay, now, I am freaking out now,
I
okay?
bet, man.
I know. And she says, She says, there's something in that childhood of yours that's really holding you back. I can't figure that out. So I had met this lady, Jane Blumenthal, that I had just mentioned to you. I met her. I was doing some work with her, and she said, I told her this story, and she said, I bet you I can find it. And I said, okay. And so she said, let's get on the phone and do this little thing that she does. She says, I'll bet you I can find it. And I said, okay. And Lem, she found it in like less than an hour. And here's what it was. Okay, when I was 2 years old, I had an operation on my my right eye, and for 5 years, from age 2 to 7, I had to wear a patch, an eye patch, on my left eye to work the right eye.
Right.
And I remember wearing the patch. It was 7 years, or 5 years of my life. I remember the patch, but I don't have any emotional scars. I mean, it's just a time of life. I wore a patch. That's what I did, right? But here's the thing. I remember everything about that patch. I remember how they smelled. I remember what it looked like. I remember what it felt like. I remember where the box was. I remember what the box looked like. I remember every single thing about that patch in minute detail. And I used to, when I put it on, I wore big thick glasses, right? And I put my glasses on over that patch, and it was cold and really crappy. And I remember peeling the corner off so I could see, because I couldn't see out of my other eye. My older sister was the patch police, and she'd come and push it back down. For 7 years. And so what happened was, I got to the point in that childhood piece, I got to the point where I just sort of, okay, you know what, I have to wear the patch. I can't really change it. It's just part of life. That's just what happens. So here's where this all comes to bear. What Jane found in me is, she said, your entire life has been about accepting what you don't think can be changed. So I had reached a certain level in my business, and I stayed there. And my mindset, my belief on it was, this is as good as it is going to be, and I'm okay with that. I'll just have to accept it. And then that's a pattern that she found. And when she broke that pattern, she identified that pattern, and she went through this whole process to change my relationship with the source of the pattern, which was the eye patch thing. And I doubled my business within months. Then I went out and bought a brand new Mercedes and a new place, and I literally doubled my business within months, and it's still going up by breaking that mindset. So I tell you all of that to tell you this. As a speaker, as a business person, as a coach, as a trainer, as an author, as a whatever it is you want to be, the foundation of your success stems from the mindset. It stems from the belief. It stems from the patterns that we get stuck in our lives. And you know something? Most of them we don't even know exist. I had no idea that pattern existed in my life. I had no idea that stupid little part of my life was so significant and kept me at a level. And since then, I've been able to find other patterns and other sources that have been crept up over the years. So now that we're talking about speaking here, here's why this is important. When you get on a stage, whether it's a stage of one-on-one or stage in front of 1,000 people or 5,000 people, whatever, when you get on a stage, your mindset is going to determine your measure of effectiveness on that stage. And here's the thing. It has to go beyond the superficial, rah-rah sort of motivational thing. It has to go beyond that, although that is important. There's all kinds of reasons why that's important. But ultimately, you want to get to the point where you are a professional speaker. You're not just somebody who has a message and is going to speak about it today. It needs to become part of who you are and not part of what you do. Right? And so it becomes so important. And there's all kinds of science behind this too. Did you have time to go into some of the science behind it?
Yes, come on, man, we have time.
Okay, so this is some of the most fascinating stuff that when I learned these things, it was amazing to me. You have somewhere between 75 and 100 trillion cells in your body. Okay, now every one of those cells. Inside the cells is a bunch of proteins, and the proteins twist and turn like gears. That's what gives you movement and life. Okay. Now the cells have a wall around them, and the cells have these proteins that breach the cell wall like this. They're called receptor and effector proteins. So this is the outside of the cell. This is the inside of the cell. So these receptor proteins breach the cell walls. Now, what happens is those little proteins, they're reading the sensory environment for things, and that's what affects. They're like little antennae on the cells, and that affects what happens inside the cells. So here's what happens. When you have any kind of a thought or a feeling, so for example, you're about to go on stage, and you have this self-doubt thought. am I really qualified to do this? I'm not sure if I'm ready for this. I'm really nervous. What if they don't like me? And you start generating these feelings of doubt and fear and stress and anxiety. Here's what happens. There are mechanisms in your brain that release actual physical molecules that are associated with every feeling you have and every thought. Every time you have a self-doubt thought or even a happy thought, there are physical molecules that get released into your body. Okay? And so what happens is those molecules float around and they latch on to those receptor proteins, and it changes the way your body behaves. That's why when you're about to speak, so many of us, we're about to speak, our hands shake, our knees shake, our mouth gets dry. These are physical manifestations because of those molecules changing the way the cells behave. So here's what happens with your mindset. When you are full of doubt, when you are full of fear, when you are full of anxiety, when you are full of a lack of confidence and those kinds of things, every cell in your body is adapting. Every cell in your body is manifesting a physical reaction to those feelings. And so you cannot consistently perform in a manner which is inconsistent with the way you see yourself. And you cannot because the cells in your body won't allow it. So when you change your mindset and when you approach anything, whether it's speaking or sports or business or whatever it is, you approach anything from a healthy mindset and you've got confidence and you've got power and you've got feelings of empowerment and feelings of excitement and feelings of authentic motivation. These things, those molecules float through your body, they latch onto those cells and they change the way the cells behave, and now you've got 75 trillion soldiers standing behind you, supporting you. You cannot consistently perform in a manner which is inconsistent with the way you see yourself because the way you believe, the way your mindset is, affects your body at the molecular level. Now, this extends even further, Lem, because as a speaker, remember earlier I said your job as a speaker is not to transfer information, it's to transfer emotion, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
think about this now. Based on the science we just talked about, you're the speaker on the stage. You are affecting your audience emotionally. What's happening in their brain? Their brain is releasing molecules, physical molecules associated with the emotions that you're providing. Those molecules go through their body, latch onto the receptor proteins, and change the way their cells behave. You are affecting your audience at the molecular level. Think about that for a second. And this is why speaking is just so important. So many people get on a stage and think, I have something to say, I'll say it, and I'll get off the stage. It's a waste of breath. When you get on a stage, your job is to affect a change in that audience. Your job is to influence them, inspire them. Yes, you want to educate them. That's true. There needs to be some education, some information, but your job is to reach them at the molecular level to change who they are so that they can take what you're teaching them, take what you're sharing with them, and actually apply it in their lives. They're going to make decisions on change based on how they feel, and then they're going to justify those decisions based on what they think. So if we don't get past the intellect, if we don't get past the intellect and into their imagination, we're not going to affect any change in anybody. That's a big answer.
Brother, you are speaking my language. I mean, each week I try my best to give a little bit, like a 2-minute video to the group through my list and say, hey, change your thinking or, confidence boost or whatever. And it's all about I'm trying to get them in that mindset to change their thinking because you are so correct. I mean, anyone can do pretty much anything they want to, but if their mindset is wrong, it's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. And I've seen people who walk in a room who just it's bad news. You can tell by the emotions and everything on them,
Yeah, they did, and it's true. I mean, they wear it on their sleeve, or you can, even if it's not authentic, you can tell. I mean, you can always tell when somebody's putting on the performance. They can maybe pull it off for a while, but at some point, you're going to see it, the audience is going to see it, and they're going to see it. You cannot consistently perform in a manner which is inconsistent with the way you see yourself. And here's the big challenge about that is so many of us, Lem, we don't even know exactly how we see ourselves. Here's what happens with so many people, and you've seen it, I know you have. People go to all of the events, they've seen all the big stars, they've read all the books, they've watched all the videos, they've listened to all the MP3s and the cassettes and the tapes and all of that kind of stuff, right? And it works for that person over there, but it doesn't work for me, right? It's working for everybody, and it's not working for me. Why is it not working for me? Well, the only difference is the mindset behind it. Yeah, I believe you could do just about anything you want to do. I say just about because there are limits. I don't think there's any way that I could play, linebacker for the Green Bay Packers. I mean, I just don't think that's going to work. I don't think I'm going to win a Miss Black America contest. I just don't think I'm going to be able to do that, right? So there are limits to what I can do. But within the confines of what is realistic in life, I can do 1,000 times more than I have done, and most of us, I believe, are capable of doing that. And you're right; it stems from the belief. And this is not a hocus pocus, positive thinking kind of thing. This is science, man. I mean, there's actual science behind there, and it applies on the stage and it applies everywhere. And when I met that lady, when I met Jane, and she started, and by the way, if you have any of your listeners are interested in contacting me, I can put you in touch with Jane. She'll give you a 15-minute call on the phone, and she'll tell you where you need to go to figure out all the patterns in your life that are holding you back. So it's quite astounding. But when I figured out the patterns that were holding me back in my life, and I learned how to change those patterns, not just changing them by force, but changing them by changing my relationship to the source of those patterns, that changed my mindset about those patterns. And when I changed my mindset, I changed my belief system, everything just starts falling into place. And I'll tell you something, I've been studying The Secret and universal laws long before The Secret came out. I mean, for years and years and years I've been studying this stuff, and I always look at it and I go, another one. Here's another story about the law of attraction. That's the way everybody's a law of attraction expert, right? If you can stand erect and fog a mirror, you're a law of attraction expert. There's so many of them out there. But what I'm starting to realize over the past 5 or 7 years is my business was doing just fine. Now it's doing a whole lot better than just fine, because I always had the doubts about all these universal laws because I didn't really understand the power of changing the mindset. And the mindset was the foundation of everything.
Man, man. How can people reach you?
Oh, well, there's a lot of ways to reach me, but here's a couple of things. Number one is if you want to chat, here's what we can do. Go to meetstevelowell.com, www.meetstevelowell.com, and you can use my online scheduler. There's a little video, and you can book a 15-minute appointment with me. We'll get on the phone or on Skype. I don't care where you are in the world, and we can chat for 15 minutes and see if there's any way I can be of value to you. Now, here's some instant value. If you're looking at developing your speaking and presentation skills, go to freepublicspeakingvideos.com. www.freepublicspeakingvideos.com. I give away 8 30-minute training videos there, and it's all complimentary. You can have them. You just download them, and there they are. And there's some great stuff in there about platform skills and preparation skills, and really good things that are going to help elevate your speaking and presentation skills. So those are the 2 best ways. So meetstevelowell.com if you'd like to book an appointment. We can chat on the phone or over Skype, or freepublicspeakingvideos.com to download the 8 videos, or you can do both.
Awesome. As you are speaking those magic website connections and words, Rebecca is typing inside our group as well. So we're getting that down so everyone can go to the group and check them out. We also will have this on our website, guys. As you go into the bio, and you'll see Steve's wonderful pic there with the magic aura around him. I love it. Man, this has been awesome, brother. I didn't know you were bringing this to the table. Man.
Well, now you know.
Now I know. This is good stuff because we can relate this to speaking, in public or just connecting with a person. But what really got me, though, is how all these people were talking about your childhood, man.
I know.
I don't know.
That was a freaky thing. Because I'll tell you something, I believe in psychic ability, and I believe in clairvoyance. I believe in those things, but I'm what I call a cautious believer, right? I believe it.
Right. That's me. I'm the same way.
I just don't believe everybody who says they can do it, right? But I'll tell you, 3 in a row. I mean, the whole right
That's
side of my
something
head
right there.
blew it up. Unbelievable. Yeah, it's amazing.
You know what? when I was younger, in my teens, I was able. I don't know what I know. Some of them were gonna be like, "Oh, Lim, you're crazy now. I'm quit following you." Whatever. I'm just speaking the truth. When I was younger, and I guess I used to hang around a crazy group of kids, and we were never in trouble with the law or anything. But I knew, like on Saturday nights in my small town in Arkansas, we would drive this one main strip, which was called Grand Avenue, and that's what we did. We didn't do what kids do now. I mean, we just drove on the street back and forth, seeing each other. But there were times when some of the guys who were driving the car, I would always tell them to kind of quit being crazy because we're going to have a flat or something. And then, I kid you not, they would turn to hit a pothole and bam, a flat. All right? That was one instance. We were going camping one time, and for some odd reason, I don't know, it just popped in my head, and I said, "Hey, you have a spare tire, don't you?" And they're like, no. Why are you asking that, Lim? I don't know, man. 2 minutes later, pow, da, 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 da. Things like that happen a lot to me. I don't know if it's coincidence or if I was just asking because I didn't want to walk that far because we're in the middle of nowhere. You know what I mean?
Who knows, man? I don't know either. I mean, did you create that by vibrating? I don't know, man. Who knows? But here's what I do.
See, I don't know.
I don't know. But here, because I started a business years ago, and I had this great idea. Have you ever had one of those ideas, Len, that just kind of spring you right up out of bed in the middle of the night? And I had one of those ideas. The middle of the night, boing, I got this idea. So by 8 o'clock in the morning, the website was done, the business was open. I mean, I had it all done, right? But I had no idea how I was going to fill it. How was I going to get customers? But so I shared the idea with a friend of mine, and I said, here's the great idea. Here's what we're going to do. And he said, okay, well, he said, yeah, but how are you going to get this is how you know when you've met a pigeon in your life, and when they start the sentence with the word but, okay? So he says, yeah, but how are you going to get all the customers? I was way ahead of him because I said, well, Bob, I'm going to use the law of attraction. Oh, yeah, man, I'm going to vibrate, Bob. That's what I said. I'm going to vibrate like this. I'm going to get all the customers to come in. Well, vibrating didn't work that way, but here's what I do know about the universal laws. Here's what I do know. I know that none of them are going to really have a profound effect on you, or you cannot leverage them if you do not believe first. Now, people are going to say the law of attraction happens whether or not you believe it. Yes, it does, but I don't believe that I can leverage it. I don't believe that I can harness the power of the universal laws if I do not first believe, not necessarily in them, but believe in myself. I got to believe in myself. I got to believe in my own capabilities. I have to believe in my own limitless power, within the life that I live. I need to be able to reach inside my soul and pull out the magic and hold it in my hand and say, yeah, I believe I can do that. Now all I need are the resources to do it. And I believe that's where those universal laws come in. But as a speaker, when I get on that stage, the audience has to feel it from me, man. You said it. When you get on the stage as a speaker, the audience is going to pass judgment in like 2 seconds, and they're going to feel from you. They're not just going to look at your eyeballs and how you're dressed and your posture. They are going to look at those things, but they're going to get a feeling from you, and they're not even going to do it consciously. They're just going to know in their soul, do I like this person or not? Is this person here to take, or is this person here to give? They're going to feel that. And so our belief about what we do, our belief about who we are, our belief about our message and our expertise and our calling in this world, our belief about those things, that is the absolute foundation about everything that we do that is of value to this world. That's my belief.
And that is an excellent belief. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're out there, I really want you to actually reach out to Steve. I'm sure he can help you in your business. I mean, there's a lot of potential here. I've learned a lot from sitting here, just listening. And it's amazing the things that you're touching on are really, like I said, you're hitting triggers with me. So I know that this is a very wise, important message that you have to give to everyone. Buddy, wow, this has been awesome. This has been, incredible. I'm sure we can go on and go on all day long because, I can but what about this? What about this? One more thing. I know we talked a little bit about, I just want to touch a little bit more on body language. You know what I mean? Body language to me is so important, and some of our group will have to, they'll have to deal with that because, we are going to be in front of people and we can't hide behind our computers and emails. There is a chance you're going to have to be in front of someone, How do you prepare for that?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So the thing about body language, the whole science of body language is really very tentative, and body language experts will tell you this, that you can watch the way somebody moves and you can surmise certain things about them, but the accuracy is always in question. So, but here's the thing: there are things that you can do on a stage as a speaker that affect the way the audience receives you. And there's so much. It's about, so part of it is about clasping your hands versus not clasping your hands. How wide do you open your hands? How high do you hold your hands? How do you move on the stage? How do you project your voice? What's the proper posture for projecting your voice? How do you use the real estate on the stage effectively? And so the worst thing I believe that most speakers, and nothing applies to everybody in the whole world, right? There's always exceptions, but generally I believe that one of the worst things a speaker can do is hide behind a lectern or a podium or hide behind their notes. Here's when you have something between you and the audience, whether it's your notes or your hands or a lectern or whatever, even a microphone. If you have something between you and the audience, that is a blockade, man. That is something that separates you from your audience. Your audience needs to feel you, welcome to my world. That's the way they want to feel about you, and that's the way that they want you to feel about them. So there's things you can do with your physical movement, with your physicality on the stage that are going to help the audience feel like they're part of the presentation. Here's the thing. Especially when you're telling stories, and stories are such a colossal part of effective speaking. When you're telling stories, your job is not necessarily to tell the story. Your job is to help the audience become a participant in the story rather than an observer of the story. And you do that in part by the words that you use, the way the story is constructed, but a major part of that is your body language, how you move on the stage and welcome them in. I mean, if you put your hands like this, it feels one thing. If you put them like this, it feels something else. There's so many different parts to it. So it's not, it's nothing we can go through here because we just don't have the time. But the way I teach that is in my 2-day boot camp. People come from all over the world, and they're on the stage, 6 or 7 times within 2 days, and we work on that. We work on how now that you've got your message constructed, how do you bring it to life? Using body language, stage mechanics, platform skills, audience engagement, asking the audience questions effectively, all of those things. All of it is important for speaking. So that's why, just because somebody can speak in public doesn't mean they should. It's just like saying, just because somebody can play basketball doesn't mean they should be out there with the Lakers, right? It's because
True.
there's so much that needs to be developed if the person is serious enough about being a professional level, inspirational, influential speaker who actually makes money from the stage. That's where we all want to be, and the amount of talent and skill that's required and practice that's required to get there can be substantial in a lot of cases, and that's why I do what I do. So I take speakers, aspiring speakers, professional speakers, coaches, trainers, authors from all around the world, and help them do 2 things. 1, craft their message so that it is crafted in a way that reaches the audience at the visceral level. And number 2, how to deliver that message on the stage using everything that is authentic to them. And my job as a speaker coach or speaker mentor is to pull out the real thing, not to try and turn you into a performer, although performing can be a part of it. My job is not to get you to perform properly. My job is to reach inside you, pull out magic you didn't know was there, and put the real you on the stage behind your story so that your story reaches the audience. Part of that is how you move.
Nice. Very well done, my man. All right, guys, check out the replay at where's my website? SaturdayCupAndJoe.com. Check out Steve's bio. We'll have the additional information to get a hold of him. We'll also have there's Bill chiming in saying he forgot. He apologized. Apologies to you, Steve, Bill says. He's like I said, he's traveling today. But anyway, go to our website, SaturdayCupAndJoe.com. You'll see all Steve's information. Also, we'll put something inside the group, the Video Alpha group, as Cup of Joe group, and you guys can reach out to him. Buddy, it's been awesome. I want to thank you so much for coming on. I might have to grab you again because there's lots of things that I missed out on that I wanted to ask you, but I think we did good here.
Oh, well, listen, I had so much fun. I'm glad we did it. I'm going to do more of these, man, because this is fun. But so, I'm available anytime. You want to chat with me, give me a shout, reach out. I'm happy to do this anytime you like because this is what I do. This is where I live. And like you said, there's so much more than we have time to cover in an hour. So yeah, let's do it. Anytime you're ready, I'm standing by.
Yes, sir. All right. Once again, guys, I hope you have a fabulous week. And bottom line, change your mindset. You know, you have the information now. You know where to go to. All right. With that being said, we'll see you guys later. Thanks again, Steve, and we'll talk to you soon.
You bet.